Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of the X Button. I am one of your hosts, Alejandro, and with me is the taxpayer.
Oh, hey everybody. I am yes, I'm assuming that you are also a taxpayer, Alejandro. Do you
I
have
am,
something
but
going
it's in
on?
different times. not,
That's
not,
true.
not,
When
not
is
this
tax time for El Salvador?
February.
February. Okay,
Yeah,
cool. Yeah, ours is, as many people know, like mid to late April, but you have to get in there as soon as you can. And
yeah.
being a business owner kind of sucks at this time, but
Ooh, yeah.
um, but this is where you get the good potential to write things off as expenses, like a lot of the things that I do for this.
Yeah, which is funny
It's
because you don't get a
nice.
cent from this yet, but you could technically kind of throw it there.
That's how they say it. It is the intent to make money, kids, not the actual making of money. I
We'll
sink a
eventually
lot of
get there.
money.
We'll eventually get there with the audio based on the listenerships that's been growing over there, which we're very thankful for. So
Hey, audio listeners, I love each and every one of you.
yeah, you guys are the best. I'm glad that it seems that the Apple Podcast thing, putting it there, really did the number. So I'm glad that
Okay.
eventually happened after an entire year of us waiting. Be like, why is this not there? Until I had
Welcome
to
to the crew, all
brute
of our
force it.
audio listeners. It's so difficult to visualize that, but I am so glad each of you are
And
here.
that's the thing, they've been there. They've been there and
Yeah,
growing. Like, well, we look at the video, sometimes views that were like, oh man, this is not doing that well. But
we
then I
get
look
like
at the,
3 views on YouTube.
yeah, and then like 40 in one episode.
Dang.
In
All
the other
right.
ones. So it's like, yeah, we got an audience there. So yeah, this is the X Bottom Podcast, our gaming podcast that posts every Wednesday from 10 a.m. onwards, God willing, available on the YouTube channel Escape Media, as well as most audio services around the world. So Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and the like. You can find links and the RSS feed at anchor.fm/escape-media. If you enjoy our show, give us a like and subscribe. Share the love. So, Paul, tell me more war stories. What's going on over in Elden Ring?
Well, I am not going to spoil it, but I got through a story boss that got me excited and terrified in equal measures. Because the reveal of seeing him was, how do I say it without spoiling anything? Um, it's somewhat of a familiar face. That is all I will say. And
Now,
that was
is it a familiar face from this game or from other Souls games?
It's from this game for this time, but I hear there is some character, some optional boss that you can find that is a character from like a Dark Souls game or something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but I haven't found that.
Yeah, that's the
Anyway,
character I found. That it's in the
really,
cave. Yeah, it's I hadn't realized, but because I'm also playing the other game that I'm going to talk about, that it's the same guy that kicks you in the Tomb of the Giants down a thing.
oh,
It's a thing.
Patches.
Yeah,
Okay,
Patches. So he's also in Elden Rings, which is so
I did
funny.
find him only because I knew that if you don't kill him, you get a like a merchant space for
Mm-hmm.
him. He sells a lot of really good stuff apparently. Anyway, um, so yeah, I did all that. I found probably my new favorite area of the
Mm-hmm.
game,
Oh
which
man.
is a imagine Minas Tirith. In perpetual autumn with golden leaves falling off of the
Ooh.
trees nearby. It's the space that's really near to the Elden Ring area, which you can see from a distance, like the whole game anyway. So it's not like a spoiler. It's just being in there really reminds me of actual Bloodborne
Mm-hmm.
because it's like the entire area is freaking massive. You don't get your horse torrent at all the whole time, so it's very claustrophobic. There's cemeteries and underground areas. There's like it's all in there, and it's confusing, it's terrifying and frustrating, and I love it so much because it's just so gorgeous to look at. So yeah, it's just Bloodborne in the daytime over there, and it's really great. Anyway, um, I've just been doing a whole lot of work on that, checking things off my list for quest
Mm-hmm.
logs and finding things. I finished Ranny's storyline, which is the lady with like the little ghost face next
Yeah.
to her.
Now, how have you enjoyed not being able to see the NPCs now in the map since the
Yes,
patch?
I most of the time it only shows the merchants themselves,
Mm-hmm.
but every once in a while I'll find like some random name of an NPC that I've never even heard of before. And I'm like, who is this person? And I'll show up and they'll like chat with me about something going on. They'll hand me an item for something of like a quest line that I forgot. That's how I found There's the bell hat samurai dude that
Mm-hmm.
helps you out. That's how I found him and finished his quest line, actually. So that's like a godsend, because there's no way, like, I can understand for an extent with Bloodborne, Dark Souls, whatever, it's a linear-ish game where you can just kind of walk back and forth in areas, and then you are naturally going to find the NPCs for your quest line. For Elden Ring, it is so wide open that there's no way everybody's going to be able to even find anyone, because the world is designed not to be able to see too far
Mm-hmm.
ahead. It's really well designed, but also that can cause some problems with trying to find people.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like the next step that needed to happen, and I think anybody that complains about it is kind of finding the wrong things to complain about for
Mm-hmm.
Elden Ring. Frankly, there's still enough tech problems that we can talk about for that.
I will say one point of discourse that I'm finding is that apparently very late in the game, there's way too many one-shot bosses. That almost seems like it's considering what I have experienced in Dark Souls recently.
Yeah.
That sounds familiar, like a familiar problem, and you don't hear any of that from any of the reviews because many of the reviews didn't finish the game because the game is massive and they had a small review embargo. So it's so funny that now that everyone's like playing the game and everyone is like, yeah, you better spec up your health now because
Yeah,
you're
I
gonna
had
get
to
this
watch
demolished.
I wanted to see how much that was really needed, and I watched a video on it. It explained that most people had it like at something 14 to 16-ish was the average,
Oh,
which
the
is
health?
like
Oh,
almost
yeah.
the starting level health.
That's
And
me.
they said you need to get like at least 30 by the time you're reaching the end game. So it turns out it's like a lot of people are having trouble because they're just not speccing it based on the expectations the game has, but
Mhm.
then also that could be bad conveyance because the whole game leading up to that, you don't feel like you need all the health.
These games don't show any expectation from you. They just happen. There's nothing that ever
That's the
tells
thing.
you of, oh, maybe I should
Which
spec this way.
I want to bounce back against what people are saying, because you find out how to respec your character,
Mhm.
which granted the item to do so is pretty rare. However, if
You get it
know-
from the stupid bear, by the way. I didn't know
Really?
what. Yeah,
Oh
from
my
killing
God.
this because I got something. I was like, I remember telling you when I went to find the bear. I was like, oh,
I don't
this.
even bother with them. They are freaking nuts.
They're
I've
way
realized
too strong. They're like the
most-
clams from Dark Souls.
the most frustrating and difficult kind of enemy is the overly aggressive one,
Mhm.
because I find that blocking doesn't really do much for me right now, because both my character isn't really built for high poise.
Yeah, you're
And
built for
also,
magic.
I'm a magic knight for sure, but that is definitely not in the I'm going to be able to handle anything with a shield really. But then it's like it's faster than you, so you can't really keep your distance anyway. So I'm like, how do they even expect you to do much? So like I was telling you, I had to kind of set myself up into this tactical game of cat and mouse, where
Mhm.
if I can get the right situation for like 5 to 10 solid unbroken seconds where I can prep myself, the fight is over, because I just Kamehameha wave straight into their heart and it feels amazing. But it's the whole fight is trying to create an opportunity for that, and it's the fact that they do so much nonsense against you, though, especially later on, has me a little concerned, because I'm curious. I just got to the point where a new area is about to supposedly open up. I don't know. I think that's past the halfway point. But I really want to see what everyone's saying about that, because I haven't gotten there yet. And I'm worried. But
Yeah, and I can't wait to eventually get there because I'm barely there. I'm
Dude.
still in the southern continent, just like scrounging, finding many things you never found, which
I know.
surprised me when you told me
found
you.
a lot of stuff, and I see, like, my problem is I'll scour the area, but if I don't see what is going to kind of lead my eye in the right direction, I can walk right past it and I wouldn't notice.
Yeah, no, I go corner by corner because that's how you find things here.
I do really well with that on like cliff sides, but not on like mountains, if that makes sense. Like
you
if
were in
there's a cliff
the river that I was on, and that's where I found the cave just by looking to the left.
I know. I see. I can get lost so easily in these games. I'm actually currently a little lost because it wants me to go somewhere, and I'm like, yes, but where? And I wanted to say something about that before we moved on, but anyway, oh, that's what it was. I have like 80 hours, and I only just got to that point where you
Mhm.
get to the Erd Tree, and they're like, yeah, so there's way more to do now. Um, and that terrifies me. I'm like level 115 or something.
Man.
Which somebody told me the average level you should be by the end of the game is like 150. So
Okay,
that's
you're
like,
close.
yeah. So I'm getting there. I feel like I've padded myself just a little bit to be able to use some of the weapons, because that's most of the fun of Dark Souls and now Elden Ring, is being able to like try out the more unique ones, because most of them are just palette swaps, but there's a few that operate really uniquely, and that's where I love this game, because you can do crazy nonsense. And that's one reason I loved Bloodborne, because literally every weapon was like, hey,
Mhm.
we're gonna have 4 opportunities to use this weapon in different ways, and it's just crazy. Have fun with it. But yeah, that's probably all I'll say about that, because I don't want to just bore people with talking about Elden Ring all
Yeah,
day.
because I bet everyone that's even remotely into gaming sees this game all over the goddamn place.
Oh yeah, it's as you said, it's now the second highest streamed game,
Above
or no,
Warzone. More
it's
most.
the second highest concurrent players. Yes,
Mhm.
over Warzone now, only second to Fortnite in the U.S. at least. I want to clarify
Mhm.
that, but still, that is freaking huge numbers.
I've
That
never
is
expected in a million years for this game of all games to be
that's like,
that.
I think they said like 700 plus thousand people,
Hmm.
all at once, and that is mind blowing. And then you see something like Battlefield 2042, it has like 3,000 people or
Yes.
something. Oh man.
Well, because the game just recently put out this scoreboard.
Finally, good lord.
Man, that game is just a
Oh,
living meme.
I know. Alejandro, did you want to talk about your experiences with Dark Souls before we jumped into our rapid fire things? Because it's
I'm
kind of
on.
related.
Yes, I'm on Lord Souls hunting now. So basically, I'm in
Okay.
the Metroid phase of you've seen all the
Yeah.
whole world. You have to now fully explore this world to find this 4 very specific bosses in super hard areas that is going to give you the souls that are going to open the door to the final Lord Soul, which, as far as I know, is Gwyn, the Sue's guy.
Yeah. Tell
So
me, when did you get the ability to teleport?
as soon from Arnorlando,
That's where they give it to? Okay.
yeah. So as soon as
I
you're
don't know
giving
why I
that,
thought it was after that.
yeah, it's you're given that ability way too late considering how much I had played that
Oh,
game
dude.
until then. But
That
I've
is.
also been playing this game way too meticulously. I'm level 91 right now over
Wow.
there. So
Holy
that's how
smokes.
much I grinded. If I saw, especially since I got to the painting world, that I have circuited that painting world to just kill everything, and it gives me so many souls
Mm.
to just upgrade my weapons. I'm doing at Uchi Katana. I saw it with, and I'm maxing out my
Which is
dexterity right
still
now.
the meta for Elden Ring all these years later, is the
Yeah.
Uchigatana sword for blood loss.
Yes, it's like once you hit, and blood loss, just
It's
immense.
nuts.
Yes,
Oh man.
I did that, but then so once you start, you're given the objective like, okay, you have the Lord Vessel, find the Lord Souls. I took the route of, okay, I'm gonna start in the catacombs because I had heard that's the easier part to start with, and bunch of BS because that's where you have to go into the, as Zach puts it, skeleton hell, where especially when you get to the Tomb of the Giants, which is this place where it's completely pitch dark, and then the enemies that are there are like these gigantic skulls or dog skulls that can like want to hit you no matter how
Yep.
strong you are, and you're sacrificing shield to be wearing your like skull lantern unless you do the demon's ruins, which if you fight, I just recently did that. That if you fight the Sun Knight, that's kind of like a companion that you kind of see peppered throughout the game from the very beginning until he gets possessed by this weird sunlight, like this weird spiders that does like light stuff, and you kill him. You can put that on, and then it illuminates everything, and you can have that as a helmet. I was like, oh,
Huh.
this would have been cool to have, so I could have my shield all the time while I was going through that dark area that kept killing me over and over. But when you get to Graveyard Nito, which is the if you ever seen the beginning intro of Dark Souls, is this skull guy that has all these skulls that has like the hand, It's like it's a very like it's probably one of the more iconic.
He was the one that I remember the most. Also, the fact that his name was Nito.
Nito,
That
yeah.
was hilarious.
I killed him in one go.
I remember he was like one of the easier bosses, which is probably why everyone said that.
Yes.
But I agree. Leading up to him,
Yeah,
I
leading up to it is
remember
horrible because
struggling.
there's a huge gap from where, and that's the thing. There's many huge gaps between when the boss fight is and where your bonfire is in this late game, which is something that's made me appreciate Elden Ring more now that there's so many grace points so close to a boss fight that so you don't feel. And on top of the quick loadings, which by the way, Dark Souls Remaster has quick loading, even on a base PS4. I've been like switching between my PS5 in the living room, my PS4 in my room, just to kind of keep the flow going. And I can't imagine playing this and having to go through a long load time and then having to go through a long corridor where you may or may not get hit. And
it'll take you like 5+ minutes to get back to the boss just for you to die.
Exactly, yeah. So
like, good lord.
So yeah, Graveyard Nito, I had the advantage that I had a Hilbert that I made it a divine weapon, so all the skulls that he was popping, I killed him really quick, so it was just me and him. So it was just me. Yeah, so it was just me slashing Nito and then going to hide when he did this area of attack that he did like an explosion. And I beat him in one go. I was like, oh, okay, this was easy. Then I went to the Duke's Archives, which is the Ice Dragon. And a little harder because you have these crystal enemies that take a few more hits and they can really slap you hard. But nothing compared to the effing clams. Those stupid clams. If you're not high, like there's many clams right outside where you fight the boss. And those clams, if you don't have a good shield, one headbutt, just you have your health like this, and then just go boom like this. And if you have two of them, like completely butt head you all the time, it was like, oh, nope. Then I had to like put my Crystal Hilbert and had to like slowly, meticulously like pull back. They just keep. Many enemies stop following you at a certain point. These clams don't leave you alone. They're like an overeager puppy. So and they're also hilarious to look at because it's just this like tiny fit big clams thing. So, but I learned that if you have the Hilberg and you have it two-handed and you start like stabbing, you actually stagger them from whatever you do. So I just started stabbing, and I reached the Seance, I think is what's the Ice Dragon's called. And initially I lost. I beat him in 2 tries. The first try I lost because I didn't realize that he was invincible, and you had to like destroy a crystal that's beneath him. That's like very illuminated.
Behind him, there's something like that. And I didn't find it for the longest time. I had to actually look that one up, and they were like, "Oh yeah, there's a crystal behind him." I was like, how was I supposed to know?
I know. And then once I hit that, then I hit it in a very inappropriate place for this podcast. But I mentioned it in our chat that completely you and Zach were like, ooh, why do you have to describe it this way? But I took him down really quickly again with my Crystal Hilbert that I have fully upgraded. That was doing insane DPS. Then I went to New Londo, which is the underground city that has a bunch of ghosts. I had to find the 4 kings there. And it's like fighting the ghosts not too hard, especially if you have a divine weapon like the one that I had, and you you
need a divine weapon.
Yes, not only you need a divine weapon, you also need like an occult weapon if you don't want to do a divine, and also eat it's like an essence curse that allows you to kill ghosts.
Okay. So, it was like something very situational. That was like the only way you could really banish / kill the ghosts. Because I remember going down there way too early, and I was like, I can't touch these. I can't touch
things.
Going on. That was like one of those moments of, oh, I am not the biggest fish in this pond. I am just a child fighting literal spirits out here. And you have to go through literal like supernatural TV show level of do this ritual, do that ritual, and then you can take down the specific enemy. And I'm like, oh lord.
Yeah.
But
it's like that wasn't too hard, but then I eventually reached the Abyss, which I'm glad that I killed our good old boy Sif, the wolf with the big sword in the mouth, because unless you kill him, you don't get a ring that then you have to fall through this abyss that's like completely dark, and that's where you fight the 4 kings. There are these like massive horn dudes that, ironically, 4 of them, I died 4 times to that fight. until I eventually just completely almost broke my Crystal Hilberg and put the hardest armor that I could find that had me like so slow, but you need high poise for that battle because you're like in this pitch dark area where you feel like you're almost floating and these things just keep like popping in and out. You should find a video of that. It's like, it's really creepy because you don't see anything other than this ghostly
I don't know if
kings.
I remember that because I always thought that Sif was required.
He is. If you don't have,
that's true.
yeah, if you don't kill Sif, you can't go to the abyss where the 4 kings are. So.
Right. I remember that, and then I remember there was like a DLC with Artorias that was in like a place like that or something. But yeah,
I'm not touching the DLC of this game. I heard it's even harder.
Don't even bother with any of that. But I remember you can get Artorias' stuff in the 3rd game, and that was really nice to me because that was when I was really into the.
Yeah, there's a lot of callbacks in Dark Souls 3 to 1, right? Like from the interconnected levels and a bunch of references.
Dark Souls 2 is almost like in its own continuity, and then Dark Souls 3 steps back into like, yes, this is literally the same world, but in a different time period or something.
Exactly. So I killed those knights after I finally figured out having a high poise, and then just almost breaking my Crystal Hilbert. Just I having to and just stab, and then it killed it. I killed it last night. I sent a picture of me killing them, giving the finger to those 4 dudes. Then now I'm in the final place where it's the demon ruins. I have killed 3 boss fights there. They were relatively easy, though the 3rd one I feel like I cheesed it because not only did I have the summon for my Sunlight Knight, I also had a summon for PvE for like a co-op, and this dude just came in and wrecked shop with magic. So I just had to sit back, and as he was doing it, he broke the tail of this centipede, this massive fire centipede that has like long arms. He destroyed the tail, and that gave me the ring you need to kind of like walk on lava. So then I joined in with my knight. We're just walking on lava, just hitting that centipede, and he went down in one go. So I was like, yes. Then now you go to this lost, the area where the boss is in the demon ruins. There's like all these massive, gigantic creatures that are like so creepy. They're like dinosaurs, like in the river of lava. And then you have to find the boss that is the bed of chaos, and it's I wouldn't say it's my breaking point, but this is the moment where I'm like, all the people that sing Dark Souls praises, they really love underplaying how much BS there is in this game. That's the only boss fight that is like non-traditional, which in an idea is kind of cool that you don't have a boss fight that is going to how can I say this, follow the mold, because apparently from what I had to look it up because I was like, this is insane. This is a boss fight you don't really fight. You just have to like take out some like 2 weak spots and then find like something in their middle, hit it in one shot, and that's it. But the problem is, it's RNG based. You never know when the Bed of Chaos is gonna swing the hands. You never know what the floor, what kind of floor is gonna drop from you. Like, it's never the same floor that drops, and so it's just like you're based on luck. And there's nothing worse than in a difficult game to be at the mercy of luck. And what's funny is that this could have been my breaking point, but this is the final boss before the final boss for me. So it's like,
I can't quit now.
I can't quit now, and I just can't. It's like, I destroy one weak point, so I just have to destroy the other weak point. The good thing is that if you destroy the weak points, it saves. You don't have to destroy that weak point again. So there's something cool about that. But I guess because they did that, I was like, to counteract, I was like, let's make it extra difficult to just be at the mercy of RNG. Of when is this Bed of Chaos gonna like slap you in the hand and throw you down the abyss? So I actually have the game turned on right now here in front of me. I paused it to record this.
I think I can hear the fan in the background if I'm...
Yeah, it's the PS4. Okay. Remember when the PS4 would be so noisy and the PS5 is so damn quiet?
I did want to ask. So I remember Nito, I remember the Crystal Dragon, and I feel like I vaguely remember the darkness area, the abyss. So I think I quit around there. And then I definitely didn't touch the demon ruins. But I wanted to ask, what are your opinions on the creepy serpent thing with red eyes that can eat you and teleport you?
Oh man, there is like, that serpent is like so cartoony. it doesn't
Honestly,
feel
okay,
like it exists in the game.
so to me, so his name is Koth, and I
Uh-huh.
had to look him up. And just the images, it reminds me of the primal fear I felt looking at him. And even though he's like a chill NPC that helps you, he is probably the most terrifying thing I've ever seen
But that's the
to
thing,
this
like, yeah.
day.
Oh, what's funny is that I remember when I first saw it, I was like, holy crap. Because he shows up out of nowhere in the Firelink Shrine.
Yeah,
And
he's
then
just chilling.
when you go talk to him, he has like the most like cartoony voice, kind of like the most whimsical thing that it's so funny. It's like, I think you retweeted something about this. Like, there's just something ironic about the contrast of the dark oppressive world and the kind of cheery exterior of some of the NPCs that you find, that it's weird dichotomies that really work. He's one of them to me. So
Honestly, I don't even remember his voice all that much because I was during a phase of life where I was still living with my parents and
yeah.
I wouldn't play games with the sound on. So
Hmm.
I would just see this horrifying creature, excuse me, that I thought had like invaded the Firelink shrine.
Hmm.
And I would just see him sitting there in the corner watching me menacingly. And I didn't even I would like go around him at first. I would refuse to go talk to him because I thought he was like a boss or something that would like take me, especially when he asked for my help and I was like, yeah, sure, let's go. And then he eats me. I was like, oh
Yeah, I know.
gosh.
I think he takes it to the bottom. That's the I assume is the area of the final boss where you when you put the Lord Bessels in. So that's it. I'm so close. This game has ruined my life. I dream about this game. I think about this game when
You
I turn
beat
the game on.
Ornstein and Smo on your first try.
Yes.
I don't want to hear it from you.
Yeah, that's what's so funny. I beat him just by being so patient, and then I read that is one of the hardest bosses in the entire game. The only
I
time
spent
they have
like
to
6 real life months, like periodically going back to try fighting them, and I just couldn't.
And I wonder if it's because of the way I played this that I over level myself almost to an obsessive degree, where
Probably so, because
my
that was
strength.
2011. Paul trying to play that
Yes,
game.
I have this thing with RPGs that if you give me the opportunity, I am gonna grind the crap out of your game. I'm gonna like max out before even continuing. So it's
Funny
I
that
just
you
enjoy
say
that.
as you just bought Dark Souls 2, because you know what they did to stop you?
They don't give you that much XP, don't you? Or like
Not just
some
that, but if you kill an enemy 12 times,
they
any
stop
NPC
they
will stop
stop.
spawning
Yeah, I
forever.
kind of heard that. So
So you gotta like make sure whatever you get counts, because you will get stuck if you just sit around, keep killing, and then you lose those souls. That's
mhm.
it.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I am really curious because there's no hour count or at least in-game hour count in Dark Souls, but there's the PS5. Like if you go to your profile, it tells you how many hours you played. I can't wait to see how many hours I put into this thing. This
when
game,
you quit the game, it doesn't give you a readout.
nope.
I don't know why I thought there used to be stats listed on that.
Maybe there is, and I haven't found them.
It
Maybe
might be that I'm just thinking of Dark Souls 2 and onward, because
they had
they
the
were
hour
like
count.
very focused on like showing your level, going your hour count, and like a little
Elden Ring
cutout.
does that. When you're quitting, it shows you your
it
face,
basically
the hour
looks
count. Yeah.
identical.
So there's again, yes, Demon Souls came out first, but Dark Souls was like the first one of these in this style. So there's I think you also mentioned it in our chat. It's like you kind of appreciate that in 2011 time because no other game was like this. That's probably the reason why a lot of its BS wasn't being called out. But I can kind of see why this game wasn't getting tense over there also. Maybe that's how they were calling out a lot of the BS, but the good parts are so good that, or more like how it warms in your mind and you don't want to play anything else. It's incredible what these games are. Only Destiny has done that to me, that it just warms in your mind. You just want to keep playing it. So it's so funny that I found another that kind of game, even if it's not a shooter. So by this time next week, I may be done. And I wonder if by spending all this time in Dark Souls, this will give me the opportunity to go back to Horizon as kind of like a palate cleanser and finally finish it.
Guarantee if you try to play Elden Ring at any point in between that, it's gonna worm
yeah,
its
it's-
way back into your mind, and you're gonna only want to play it.
Oh yeah, it's just a kind of aura of a game. So any other quick things you play, Paul, before we go to news?
I'll just briefly mention that I played Streets of Rage 4. I was championing the idea of it a few weeks ago when I saw that it was on sale to everybody in the podcast. But I finally got it myself, and my goodness, the animation and the character designs are so freaking cool. Because I'm sure you're aware of how beat 'em ups play out,
Hmm.
where it's just 2D space, kind of go up, down, but the idea is beat everyone up, survive to the end of the gauntlet, and then you move on to the next stage. And it was so full of like wonderful, like the right kind of nostalgia, where it was like, this is not recognizable to me at all from my young days of playing beat 'em ups in arcades. And like I've never even played any of the series before, because that was like the first one I'd ever seen. It's the only one that's available, I think, on modern consoles.
Hmm.
And I was just like, I have no idea who any of these characters are, but this looks really fun. And gosh, it feels so nice. Just mashing random buttons, jumping and hitting the attack button over and over again. Um, I won't say much about like the design itself of it, because it's just a simplistic style of game. It's got DLC for it, which I think is still on sale right now, but I'm considering if I want to buy it or not, because it has like more characters you could play
Hmm.
as. And even if I never beat the game, just being able to play as other characters seems really cool, because each one is like very different. But just because I want to one day make maybe like a Metroidvania myself that's
Hmm.
gonna be 2D side scrolling like that. So
Oh
I
man,
I
you
was
would
like
have to learn
taking
so much
notes.
about design and really being
Oh,
so deliberate
absolutely.
about where you
I
put
know
stuff.
that's like 5, 10, 15 years. That's like a goal in my life one day to do. But I
Get
know
your game
that
out first.
that's what we're
Huh?
doing. I'm learning a little bit of it, because I didn't think I would ever be able to, but it was like, oh, that'd be kind of nice one day if I had the opportunity. And then as we're finishing up with this, he's like, yeah, you could take a back seat in the next game that we work on. I was like, really? That'd be kind of nice. So now I'm like taking notes on things that I wasn't paying attention to before, because I mean, I didn't think I would be a character designer either, so that was nice. But yeah, last thing was GTA Online. I bought that for the
So, do you have to put the disc in to get the discount? Is that how it
so I
worked?
found out no, because it's only $10 for the entire game digitally.
Mm,
Yes,
interesting. So even
which
you don't
GTA
have to
Online,
own.
because it won't recognize it unless the disc is in, which I found out for Death Stranding. This time I looked it up online. GTA Online was free to play,
Mm-hmm.
and the GTA 5 full game was only
On
10
PS5.
bucks.
Okay, yeah, but which
So
is
I
the
just
limited
had to
time
buy
thing.
that so I was like, 10 bucks, shoot, I'll buy that to not have to worry about my disc ever again.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that, downloaded it immediately, brought up the ability to switch my migrate, that's the word, my characters from the PS4 version to the
Mm-hmm.
PS5. Did that, and I was in. Ran around, did a couple tiny missions, and turned it off. But man, it was like coming back to a nice comfort food that I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh yes, this is
Now,
wonderful.
do you
And
play
then
it in the
like
performance modes and see how silky smooth it runs
I
and
think
how
I
quickly it loads now?
I yeah, just the loading by itself. Oh my goodness, you'll wait for like 5 minutes on the PS4 version on like anything.
And not 20
And that
seconds.
was one of the most frustrating parts of that game, was you had to just sit there. Like I start the game and
Could
I'm
make a
like, all right, I'm gonna go
sandwich.
do something for another 10 minutes while it figures out what it wants to do with its life. But this time it's like, all right, you're in, let's go. The one thing is like reacclimating myself to the changes in the UI, where everything is. It is very confusing and obtuse how you're supposed to actually partake in the content,
Mm-hmm.
because in order to get access to a lot of it, you have to spend a large amount of in-game currency on a certain kind of real estate. And when
Mm-hmm.
you buy that certain kind of real estate, it opens up that expansion of stuff. So granted, you don't have to spend any real money for it, because I've been playing this game for frickin' ever, and they
Mm-hmm.
were giving out like $1 million each month before release. But at the same time, like, you need to know, hey, you buy the arcades for the casino heist, you need to buy this kind of apartment for the regular heists, you need to buy these things that have a razor blade over them to get the motorcycle club stuff. It's like it's very confusing, and I realized it coming back, and I'm like, thank God I had a vague remembrance of what to do,
Mm-hmm.
because if anybody started this game up, it was like, all right, so how do I do the heist, or how do I do any mission at all? You're not going to know. There's no way you would know. You have to go into the contacts and call the character that you want to do for that, or
Like
there's a
Dark
touch
Souls.
screen in the menus that lets you load up a specific mission, and nobody knows that. And man, it's such an outdated style of game, but it's been doing so well, and now it runs super well that it's just got, I think it's getting a second wind out of this for
Oh
sure.
yes, absolutely. Just in the performance alone, it's kind of like now this is what will carry this version of GTA Online onward now for the next
Yeah.
how many years until whatever GTA 6 ends up doing, because there's rumors that GTA 6 experience is gonna just be like
Forever.
instead of being GTA Online and a single player, they're gonna like merge both together.
Yeah,
So
I'm
it can
not
be
looking
just
forward
one.
to that part of it, but
Yeah, it's just,
it's
it will
rock
depend on the
star.
quality. Yeah, it depends on if that comes at the expense of the quality of how they usually do single player. That's what's gonna suck. So,
Yeah.
anything else?
No, that's it. Just letting you know that if you ever want to play GTA, now have it set up, migrated, and everything,
Mhm.
so I
Oh,
can
absolutely. We're gonna
just hit the
eventually.
button.
That's the thing. We're getting close to dry spells. Like the tsunami of
Yeah.
releases is like getting close
know.
to ending. So,
We're gonna slowly get you into the ability to do their version of raids, which was my experience.
yeah.
So,
Speaking
I'm
of
gonna let
raid,
you,
yeah.
talk now.
Speaking of raids, Paul, we tried the Bow of the Disciple raid last Wednesday.
Did.
So
That was nuts.
yeah, so we had the absolute worst experience by the stupidest things like preventing us to just play because someone just couldn't figure out their audio thing. And then it came together, and then we saw our entire team kind of pull its weight and synchronize and see that we were improving and getting everything clicking. And to me, it just sucks that and we always said that our clan seemed like it's cursed to never do a raid, but I'm feeling hopeful that at the very least we're going to have clan members that, as long as there's no technical problems, seems like they understand what they need to do. They're not gonna be know-it-alls. They are learnable. They understand what they need to do. They understand how to follow orders. They understand how to learn mechanics. I'm hopeful for our next dive in whenever we play with them, because I know I have had amazing raid experiences. You, for some reason, every time that you join me in one, I don't know if you just
Gloriously bad.
yes, I don't know if your cats have just like imbued you with bad luck. I don't know, because they're black and you're just bringing that bad luck in, that it just makes the raid experience sometimes miserable when no other time with only few exceptions I've had miserable raid experiences, but not as often as I do when I try to bring you in. I have to tell you, I've done hour-long raids. I've done hour and a half long raids where everything just clicks into place. We just plow through. So I feel like it's getting there, and let's see if we play this
Slowly,
week.
I think I'm more familiar with these people now, which
Mhm.
helps. They're getting more familiar with the raid. I know the specific problems that we kept having is because we kept going into Vault of Glass, which was a new,
A
it's
newer.
the same raid but a new experience. So a lot of people who would think that they had the right experience from the past are like, oh yeah, I know it, but they only played the old version. So I understand now. There's a lot of confusion specifically surrounding that one raid. So I think that if you and I and the rest of the crew had tried any of the others at the time, we probably wouldn't have had that same problem. But because they specifically wanted to make that one harder for all the people that used to experience it,
Exactly.
somebody like me who was still coming in fresh off the boat was like, this is dumb, why do y'all like this?
Yes.
And
You need to
now
experience
it's
Deep
like,
Stone Crypt. That's the one our friend Kevin and my friend Josh, that was their first raid. It was an amazing first raid to do because it was relatively simple. It just needed good execution. But yeah, one day. I'm feeling more hopeful because this new raid is technically harder. And we got through that first encounter that was, for all intents and purposes, very complex.
Yes.
25 different icons that you needed to learn that. And then eventually you just clicks, right?
It does.
You think
After
it's gonna,
a while,
yeah.
you're just shouting stuff out, and like once it does click, then you're good. And I think every subsequent attempt at that, as long as it's with like the kind of people that you understand, then you're golden, pretty much.
Exactly. So can't wait. Let's see if we attempted it again this week, because I may be finally free of my Dark Souls curse. But enough of that, Paul. We got a few news items that we have to go through. So press X.
For some news.
All right, Paul. So the release calendar just keeps on going, and lucky for us, based on the timing, another review embargo has lifted. So Ghostwire Tokyo review embargo has lifted ahead of its March 25th release, and the results are as expected based on developer Tango Gameworks' track record. Sporting a 76 Metacritic score after 96 recorded reviews, the last new Bethesda game, until otherwise noted for the PlayStation 5, is being received about as well as the studio's previous two games, The Evil Within and The Evil Within 2, both sporting a 75 and 76 Metacritic respectively. Here's an excerpt of the reviews. Ghostwire Tokyo doesn't reinvent the wheel when it comes to open world games, but its unique setting, tremendous attention to detail, and singular combat make it stand out amongst its contemporaries. The story stumbles, and not all of these side missions are particularly engaging, yet these aspects are easy to push to the back of your mind when you're using finger guns to tear through corrupted spirits with dazzling aplomb. Shinji Mikami is a legendary director, but taking a backseat and letting new voices come to the fore has paid off. That was GameSpot with an 8 out of 10. Game Informer came in with also an 8 out of 10, saying, I fully expect some people won't be smitten with the game the way I am, and I think it's completely understandable if you don't want to forgive the game for that. But if Ghostwire connects with you, I think it's really gonna connect with you. It's weird and unique, and I think it's great to see this kind of game get this kind of budget, put it all on the table, and use that money to do some baffling and great art. And for that alone, I can't help but love Ghostwire. IGN came in a little lower with a 7 out of 10, saying, with superb visual design and an incredibly well-realized rendition of Tokyo, Ghostwire gets a lot right, but just doesn't quite have the gameplay chops to push it over the top. 7 out of 10, like I mentioned. And then BGC, Video Games Chronicle, came in with a 6 out of 10, or more like a 3 out of 5, saying, at times it feels like the game's incredible art direction, music, and visual style deserve a game that's better mechanically, but when it all comes together, Ghostwire Tokyo is one of the more unique games in the AAA space, if you can ignore its gameplay stumbles. So Paul, we have been buying a lot of games this past 2 months with so many release calendars. I mean, even Stranger of Paradise last week, which we haven't played because we've been playing all this other stuff.
I haven't even turned it on.
Yes.
I can't do that with all of these other games. And freaking some of my friends are trying to convince me to get Tiny Tina's Wonderlands.
Yeah, I was going to talk to you about that also.
That's an entirely different thing. Oh gosh, but shoot, Ghostwire Tokyo was the game that I thought that just it was like gonna come and go, and I wasn't really sure about it. I didn't even know it was open world. Goes to show how much I knew about it, because they just didn't.
They didn't quite
like
say
the
it.
Frenetic gameplay. I thought it was just like, okay, well, it's kind of like narrative driven, I guess. And it was interesting and weird, but at the same time I was just like, I still don't fully understand it. But who would have thought another PlayStation-ish exclusive Bethesda made game that was on the PlayStation has a very weird marketing process, because that's exactly what happened to Deathloop.
Exactly, yeah. It's like they're either not selling those games well, or they don't just care. They just kind of want those games to be out to get out of that whole deal. So it's like, it's the fact that it's being received as well as previous Tango Gameworks games is like, you know what you at least can expect from them, even though this game feels and looks different from the other ones. I mean, you played the first Evil Within for a while. You didn't finish it because that game never ends. So
it just won't stop, and I couldn't even buy the sequel because of it, because I didn't feel right buying it without finishing the first game. So yeah, anyway, this is weird. I want to get it one day, but I need somebody to explain to me how it's actually gonna
work.
You know, like at moment to moment they're showing the frenetic combat, but what's the rest of it like? You know, is it just
there's 92 more? Yes, there's 92 other reviews that they may explain it there. So it's just yeah, this is, I kind of told you, it's like, I'm setting money aside if you ever want to like take the plunge, if you want something else. It's like, I wouldn't mind it. because I enjoyed Tango's previous work. But also tied into Tina's Wonderlands, no review embargo yet. We don't know if it's either tomorrow or the day before or day off. We'll see. That's another game that I'm like, if you want to dive in, do let me know for that. But I'm just more excited for Lego Star Wars. That's on the April 5th. We're so close. A lot of previews this week. I didn't put it here, but a lot of glowing previews about that one. So I know where I want to do more. So number 2, Paul. Although unexpected news announcement, CD Projekt Red has officially announced the next game in the Witcher series is officially in development. Theoretically being called The Witcher 4, not much is known about the upcoming title other than these 2 key announcements. Number 1, the game is being directed by Gwent director Jason Slama, taking over directing duties from former Witcher 3 director Konrad Tomaskiewicz, who recently left the company to open his own studio Rebel Wolves, who's developing a fantasy RPG with a vampire protagonist. Also number 2, the new Witcher game is going to utilize Unreal Engine 5, announced by CD Projekt Red via press release that also mentions a new development partnership with Epic Games, where the studios will collaborate in the implementation and evolution of the Unreal Engine 5 technology. This also marks CDPR's departure using their in-house Red engine, which has been powering their game since The Witcher 2: Assassins of Kings. The technology the technology will still continue to be used in the continuous development of Cyberpunk 2077, where they confirmed work is currently underway on the game's first major expansion. You excited, Paul? A new Witcher?
You know, if this had come out or been announced like 5 years ago or something, maybe. But at this point, I'm just so tired. All of my goodwill for CDPR is gone, long since gone. I know that we had a well-documented up and down roller coaster of my experience with that 2 years ago now. With the delaying and eventual release of Cyberpunk 2077, for anybody that didn't know. A game notoriously known for being so bad and full of technological problems that they had to pull it from digital marketplaces. I still will champion parts of that game because of the innovation and the cool aesthetic of it all. But at the same time, the process that CDPR went through, especially with a lot of their problematic culture behind the curtain being pulled back due to this, and a lot of the turnover, people leaving, people saying really unfortunate and not okay things about them, which was all justified. So I'm at an all-time low with my opinion with these people, and the fact that all of the good ones went off and made their own game, studio rather, and they're going to be making their own games, makes me want to actually just leave and follow those people at Rebel Wolves now rather than sticking with CD Projekt Red. I loved the Gwent game. I'm just gonna briefly acknowledge the specific things, and then I'll turn it back over to you. Gwent by itself was phenomenally designed and created. The game itself was great as well, and I guess good for Jason Slama, because that's clearly a jump up from what he was given. But also the fact that he even had to take over for the previous director is kind of an unfortunate situation. And as far as the engine, I think this is long overdue because they've been using the same thing since Assassin of Kings. That is unacceptable in the day and age now. You can't just keep using your own in-engine setup. I mean, Bethesda managed to do it for so long, but they had to change it till it's literally unrecognizable from what it used to be.
And that's the thing; they still use the same creative.
Same but engine. Like at least they you made different iterations constantly. This is like you can still.
It was the same engine. It was the same engine. It broke with Fallout 76.
It holds itself back so much. So yeah, same situation here. So I'm glad that they just decided to see the writing on the walls and we're like, hey, we're just going to use Unreal Engine 5, which is a great system for a lot of reasons.
New tech.
So many great games, and it's brand new tech. So it's like this is the floor of what is capable now with everything using Unreal Engine 5. So I say power to them. I mean, eventually it'll be dated, but by that point, they'll either have a classic or they'll be in the gutter, like all of the other projects they've been working on
Do
lately.
you see the Matrix demo, the Unreal Engine 5 Matrix
I
demo?
did. I got to play that, and that was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just all sorts of stuff. I really loved how detailed their tech was about that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I watched some people that were like going through the options after the little demo portion of it,
Mm-hmm.
and that was really awesome that you could just take away the like strip off layers of the game until you had the bare bones in there, and that made me excited for what was possible in the future. But I don't know. What
So
are you thinking here?
so Unreal Engine is like such a common engine right now, and I feel they did this because one, doing Cyberpunk with the Red Engine was a nightmare.
Mhm.
As pretty as that game could be, especially now with the next gen machines and a beefed up PC that can handle the ray tracing and all of that, the Red Engine had its moments, we could say, but when for hiring purposes, like more people know Unreal than an in-house proprietary engine.
That's a
So,
good point.
so especially now that they're more willing to, because they also mentioned in the press release that they're willing to work with people that don't have to relocate to Poland to work on this. That's gonna like increase the talent pool of people that are going to be able to work on this game because they don't have to learn that much different language for a new engine, because Unreal Engine, especially for the people that mastered Unreal Engine with Unreal Engine 4, 5 is basically the same. Basically, it's like going from Photoshop 8 to Photoshop 9, kind of.
Okay,
So
yeah.
it's like it has a different interface, but the functionality is almost the same, and that's good because sometimes the upgrade from 3 to 4 in Unreal Engine was like complete overhaul, and Unreal Engine 4 took a while for it to really click because a lot of people had to learn new design language for that. So that's gonna help them, and with now work from home becoming more common, despite people wanting the desire of bringing everyone back in the office, the reality is that you can have a hybrid model of the people that want to do it and the people that can work offshore, whoever it is. So that's good because also Epic has proven that they have the tools necessary to help people that need help with their engine. So them making a strategic partnership means that CDPR is going to have all the resources they need for help to evolve the technology with how they're going to do for a new Witcher game. Definitely, I feel it's more exciting to hear what Rebel Wolves will be doing if you're more a Witcher 3 fan, because the guy that spearheaded that is doing that. So that feels like the more direct sequel to that. But it will depend on how this new Witcher game looks like. I feel I'm kind of in the same boat that there's no goodwill that I really have for CDPR after the whole Cyberpunk debacle. Obviously, I also mentioned that seeing the PS5 version now running the base one and not just the backwards compatible one is so bittersweet because, man, had you waited 2 more years, this could have been the game, but you just had to get that thing out, didn't you? So wait and see for me. I don't know how long this is going to take. I mean, they're still working on the DLC for Cyberpunk, which should have been ready by this new version releasing, but that's just CDPR for you.
Gonna drink my tea on that one.
Yes.
We've talked plenty about how that whole roadmap should have.
Yeah, I
been
still like regret that we shelved the show in the later months of all that happening, because, man, just seeing your reaction to every single delay, and then you being on your island, like enjoying the game, making excuses for it, where it was all on fire. You were the puppy in the house on fire until it was the removal of that game from the store where the bubble finally popped.
Clarifying for everybody listening, it's because I had a PS5 while nobody else did, so I was experiencing the game at the absolute peak of what it could handle.
Mm-hmm.
So all I had to deal with was the regular crashes, but everything else worked fine. And it was because everybody else experienced it on PC and PS4, where it was just performing horrible.
Specifically PS4, PC wasn't much of a problem. That was the best
True.
version.
PC was better, but yeah, it still had the crashing problem. But yeah, so that's why I had a bubble around me, not because I was specifically in denial. It's just because I literally was experiencing a completely different game than like 99% of everyone else.
Oh man, I tell you.
But yes, I acknowledge its problems for
that
sure. But I swear by the fact that there is a core that while I said it about Battlefield 2042, I will say it more about Cyberpunk 2077, that you can find some gold in that game, emotionally, like narratively wise, and gameplay, for just the sheer amount of stuff you can do.
More now, especially now with the actual PS5 version now out and the Xbox Series X and S version out. That gold can be easily found now. So yeah, we'll see. I'm definitely waiting to see on Witcher. I'm still waiting for the PS5 version of Witcher 3 so I can finally fully play it. So that's another can of worms.
I think the only reason I wanted to do that is because I was looking for something like Elden Ring, and now that I have Elden Ring, I was like, oh shoot, I'm just gonna play a better game. Because while the narrative is great for Witcher, the gameplay sure ain't.
Nope, not anymore. So.
Zingers today.
Yes.
Yeah. What else we got, Alejandro?
The consolidation wars continue, Paul. And also the mergers and acquisitions era. So, number 3, PlayStation announced their intent on acquiring new Montreal-based studio Haven, which opened around this time last year and is headlined by veteran game producer Jade Raymond of Assassin's Creed and Watch Dogs fame. The studio's first project was always meant to be a PlayStation 5 second-party exclusive in the live service realm, but according to PlayStation Worldwide Studios president Herman Holst, progress in the title has exceeded expectations, which prompted PlayStation to break their usual acquisition protocol of a long-nurtured relationship leading to acquisition. Along with the Bungie acquisition, this marks a new era of growth for PlayStation, obviously as a response to the consolidation happening in the industry right now. This was weird. We don't even know what this game looks like. We knew the studio opened literally around March last year, 6 weeks after Jade Raymond left Google. She was in Google serving as vice president for the first party development, and then Google was like, JK, not really, no more first parties, out, die Stadia. So she left and then made that new studio. And initially they were like, as soon as they announced the studio, they were like, yeah, we're working with PlayStation. So they were like, oh yeah, second party. So they're the new Housemarque, they're the new Bluepoint. They're what Insomniac used to be, like a studio working with PlayStation to make games only for PlayStation but not owned by them. And the like I mentioned here, it's like the process has always been like that. The long relationship leading to them putting the ring at the end happened with
this speaks to me. There's something going on here, because just like you said, we literally haven't seen anything from this game that they're supposedly talking about. The studio literally hasn't existed since what, last March, you said?
Yes, a year.
So like they have nothing proven. They've never created something yet, and whatever they're supposedly making made Sony go, yes, we want to buy you now before this is even revealed, much less out. That, I don't know if they're putting the cart before the horse, because you just don't want to do that. I don't know what that is, unless they're thinking that whatever this game is going to immediately make somebody else want to buy them, which I feel is just not what anybody that big wants to do. I mean, I don't care how good it is. Like, no company that large wants to buy something based on no evidence.
Yeah, and the only evidence is the track record of Jade Raymond, which, by the way, hasn't been the strongest since the Assassin's Creed Watch Dogs era. Yeah, she opened Ubisoft Toronto before leaving Ubisoft. That's where they made Splinter Cell Blacklist. She only opened the studio, but she wasn't there. Right. She went to EA, created EA Motive. Motive was making their own game before they were tasked to do the Star Wars Battlefront 2 campaign, which we know wasn't that great. Okay.
Yeah.
And then she went to Google. And then in Google, obviously nothing came out of that because Google just sucks. So, and then we're like, yeah, I'm leaving and just making my own studio in the Montreal area. Which, by the way, Montreal, the Canadian development scene, very strong scene. Sony had no presence in Canada, like at all. So,
do you think that's just what it is? They want to expand into the Canadian North.
At least by having Haven there, now they have like a Canadian studio there where they can poach talent. But then again, it's like I feel this could have happened. Like this could have eventually led to an acquisition, but I feel now we're in this era that kind of like we mentioned at the beginning of the year, with Microsoft swallowing Activision, or in the process of swallowing Activision Blizzard. Now you're in the point where everyone's gobbling everything up, and they had a prior. everyone was is like throwing the whole, oh yeah, Sony only grows organically, and they're using this as an example of like, oh yeah, that's out the window. They're no longer growing organically, they're just swallowing. I believe that with the Bungie acquisition, because that was, even though they had a relationship working with Destiny with the marketing deal and all that, they weren't like a direct partner like Sony was with Sucker Punch, with Insomniac, with Bluepoint, Housemarque, that long years making many games only for that system before they're like, yeah, it's time to bring you in house. So definitely, it's just accepting that, yeah, Microsoft changed the game, and they probably bought this for cheap. It's better buy cheap, and maybe they're really confident about what they're seeing, but that's just hearsay.
Right, that's it's less what they're saying and more what you're talking about, where they feel pressured into just acquire somebody to gain ground. And because they are kind of working with this one specific studio, they're like, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and do that, and then keep the lookout for acquiring more stuff later on, before this studio gets more expensive to purchase for the sake of buying the studio, not necessarily actually interested in whatever they're really making.
And now it makes me curious, because last year there were 3 studios in this vein of like, oh yeah, new studios that are working with PlayStation. First one was Haven. Then there was Firewalker, the studio by some former Destiny people. And then Deviation Games, which was announced at the Summer Game Fest. That they were like, hey, we're former Call of Duty people. We're working on a new game for PlayStation. So, are those 2 the next ones now? That they're just like, you know what? This whole second-party business, BS, no more. We're just swallowing you now while you're cheap before your game is out. So, because again, it's like, that's... when you're out and you're basically in the public domain, you kind of raise your price depending on your cachet. So
yeah, I mean, especially if even if it's a middling decent game, your price is going to go up because you have a game under your belt now. But I guess now Sony is thinking, well, if we just buy you before your game comes out or is released, we can just lowball you, and then we'll give you the Sony money to finish your game. So
which they already had. Basically, right. By being second party, they already had the Sony money. They just weren't owned by them. But I feel like, especially remember where they said that they want to release 10 live service games before the end of like 2026. Right.
This is totally what that is. Then.
So it makes sense, because we were talking about the other studios that Sony owns. It's like, are all of these doing live service games now? But if they meant these guys, maybe that's what they meant. They just want to be more serious about it with these other guys that they're now going to be bringing in, so that they don't have to disrupt what their other cream of the crop studios are going to be doing.
Well, then isn't that kind of sketchy, because they made that claim before they bought any of these studios?
So but they were already working with them. Yeah, but they also were already working with them. That was always the intent. Did they not
say they were going to be first party? Or did they just say we were going to put out
10? We were going to put 10 live service under the Sony moniker.
Well, that sounds better then. I was like, man, are they just making this stuff up and then buying stuff to line up?
And that's the thing. So some organizations are just sketchy. So...
this kind of raises some red flags to me, but it's also so early in the game that we're going to put a pin in that, and then later on we're going to take the little red string 6 months to a year later and be like, this was it. This is what they did. But yeah, all that to say, I digress, and we'll have to just keep an eye on that one, because I'm curious.
I agree. Just put a pin in this until we actually see what the heck this game even is. So... yeah. And then again, just as a point of contention to anyone that wants to say that Sony does it differently, they're very organic. They've nurtured their relations. They don't do this the Microsoft route of just going to swallow what's out there in the market because they have all the money. It's like, business is business. Sometimes the market changes. So accept that that's just how it's going to be, whether you like it or not. So
I agree.
Moving on. Number 4, Paul. Are you eager for a new space game in the vein of Mass Effect?
Yes, actually.
It looks like you will indeed get that as we wait for news on the new Mass Effect.
Okay.
Humanoid Studios, the new studio by former BioWare veteran and Mass Effect Trilogy director Casey Hudson, just launched their new website and included concept art for their new project. The game is meant to be a AAA character-driven narrative game in an all-new science fiction universe. Casey Hudson last directed a game with 2012's Mass Effect 3 before leaving BioWare in 2014 to do a brief stint at Microsoft, before returning to BioWare around the time Anthem came out. He assumed the role as a general manager, a position he held until he departed the company in December 2021. No news yet on the release window for this untitled new game. So, it's so funny that companies are getting swallowed up and getting eliminated. New studios are building up. I think that's probably one of the exciting parts about all this happening, is that all that we knew may be leaving or becoming something else, but that doesn't mean new stuff can't come out. And EA is not going to give us new Mass Effect anytime soon, so why not other people try to do that with the people that originally worked on that?
A really good point, because in this consolidation war, we have been lamenting the idea that creativity is dead and it's corporations that are going to buy all the IPs up. But I think we underestimated the raw creative power of regular people, because that created a power vacuum for that AAA third-party area. And that means that there's going to be a huge influx of people with the creative desire to create something new, with the spiritual fingerprint of the things that came before it. So yeah, we might not get the Mass Effect. We might not get, I mean, now we can say Dead Space, but you get the idea where I'm going with this, where it's like, it might not be that in name, but we are going to always get those new things, because there's always going to be people out there that haven't been bought yet, because there's always more people. There's always new people coming into the industry. And I think that this is one of those stories, maybe I'm being overly optimistic, but just the idea that there's like, hey, you know, we really liked Mass Effect and we kind of worked on that. We're just going to make a new thing and we'll just put it out there, because you can't just copyright an entire style of game unless you're WB.
Yeah.
But jokes aside, this just kind of makes me happy that it's like, there were people out there that are like, hey, we like this game, we worked on this game, they won't make it in that IP, we'll just do our own thing.
Exactly, bingo. And that's the thing. That's like, so many of these great franchises that we love and we know and love are just like withering in the vine. They're just like getting rotten because some publishers don't see the value, or they don't want to listen to fans saying they want a new one, because they sometimes see the numbers and they're like, well, they say they want it, but they didn't buy the last one, so we're not going to do that. So obviously EA is attempting to make Mass Effect a thing again by allowing Bioware to do another Mass Effect despite the Andromeda debacle. Yeah. So Dead Space was not going to happen again until this recent remake. But before we got the remake of Dead Space announced, Michael...
Calypso Protocol.
Yeah, the Calypso Protocol by Glenn Schofield. It was like, I want to do another game like Dead Space. They're not going to do it. I'm going to do it myself. And then EA was like, yeah, we're going to do it, but we're just going to remake the original one.
Which is kind of nice. It's still going to itch two different scratches for that. It's going to be
the people that love that
one made in that style, or with the law of it, and the one with the spirit of it. And that's going to be really cool to see at the same time of which one comes out both first without or with the delays, and then also how they play and where the breaks and changes are from one to the other. Like, which one is better, the AAA third party or the one that owned the IP originally? It's going to be a really cool comparison.
By the way, Paul, just as an aside, we got a new notification by our client. You should read the name. I'll just say that.
Lord. I'm gonna take a look at that while you continue to talk about whatever you're gonna talk about.
Yeah, I'm just glad that now these developers now have that power to be like, if they're not happy about, yeah, you read it. Right?
I just read it. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, at least it wasn't.
Good Lord.
At least it wasn't the one from this weekend where we banned that person.
Some of those should not be allowed.
Exactly.
Gamer tag abilities.
Oh yeah, especially with their associations. But yeah, I'm just glad that even though some studios are gonna get absorbed, some creative talent are gonna get absorbed, if they don't want to still work there, they can leave and create their own thing. Nothing stops them from doing that. And I feel now we're in this era where people say they want to play what they used to play, even if it's not in the same franchise. They want something like that. That's where Bloodstain came from. Iga, the guy that made Castlevania, Konami wasn't making the Castlevania style, like the Metroidvania style Castlevania. So he was like, you know what? I'm leaving Konami. I'm starting a Kickstarter. I'm doing it myself. That's where Bloodstain came out, and that was very successful.
Thank God for that, but also it was very tumultuous in its development. If anybody remembers that, where people were concerned that he was just taking the money and running because
It
what
took
he was
5 years to
making
make.
was not great looking at first, and he had to do a full visual overhaul, that whole thing. But yes, overall, it's a great success story coming back into like this whole situation. I think we're seeing more of that, and I think we're going to see even more beyond that, because all these people from the Xbox 360 and PS3 era are going to want their IPs. Nobody's going to want to make them, and they're going to say, fine, I'll do it myself, and break out the Infinity Gauntlet in the
Exactly.
process.
Yeah, I was thinking about that literally. But for every Bloodstained, you get Mighty Number 9. Mighty Number 9 literally was that same thing. He was like, what the heck was it? What was his name? No, that's not. I don't know. I'll forget. The guy that used to make Mega Man.
Yeah.
He left Capcom and he was like, they're not gonna do a 2D Mega Man. I'm gonna do it myself. It looked amazing at first, and then that went through a visual overhaul that didn't look at all like it used to.
It ended up being pretty trash, and then Capcom said, "Fine, I'll do it myself."
Yes, and then ironically, then Capcom finally went into their resurgence. They remastered all the old Mega Mans, and they did Mega Man 11, which was relatively well received. So that's one that hurt, because the creator of Mega Man didn't make a good one. Keiji Inafune is his name. I remember that.
I would almost say, like, but granted, Capcom went through a very different overhaul recently, so it may be under a different situation, but I think there's a possibility that the process of Mighty Number 9 motivated Capcom to say, hey, let's take this off the shelf, remaster everything that we did in the past, and make an entirely new game, superior in every way. But I'm not like super involved in the creation of that one as much as I was with Bloodstained, so there could be like a lot of a time gap, whatever happened with all that. But I just love the idea.
Yeah, Mighty Number 9 is the one that put Bloodstained under the microscope. Its failure in 2016 was like, man, Bloodstained was literally done in the same circumstances. Is that gonna fall off? And that's why that one took even longer. Like, Mighty Number 9 was revealed in 2013 and then released in 2016. In that period, it went through a tumultuous development where it came out a year and a half later than it was supposed to come out. Its visuals completely changed. A PlayStation Vita version that was kickstarted never came out. It was a complete mess. And then Bloodstained just kept getting delayed. It was revealed in 2014. It came out in 2019. It took 5 years to make, but at least Iga made it right. People like Bloodstained. Especially the Curse of the Moon ones that look more like Castlevania. So
right, and I think then they added like DLC and stuff. Oh yeah, that's what you're talking about, Curse of the Moon. And then he added himself in the game as an absolute just F you to everybody. It's so funny.
Yes.
So I look back on it fondly, and I think now that I've gone back into Metroidvanias, part of me wants to replay Bloodstained from the start, understanding more about how
I bought it recently. It was
supposed
15
to be played. Really?
Yeah, it was $15, so I bought it.
They put it on sale pretty often, so I think if you understand it right, I think it can end up being better. I just ended up in the wrong side of it by getting the bad ending. And I was like, well, how was I supposed to know that? And then I realized that I just have to play Castlevania, any of them, with like a guide next to me, or I will not do what is needed. Or I will on accident and then be like, hey, that was nice, which is what happened in Circle of the Moon. So anyway.
Final story, Paul. Ubisoft. We haven't talked about it in a while. Ubisoft has been relatively quiet as of recent days, but it looks like the developer wants to try to make a splash of its own with an upcoming showcase to detail its upcoming lineup a bit more. According to the ever-reliable leaker Tom Henderson, he's got a list of Ubisoft's upcoming project slate that could be part of this showcase, meant to fill up Ubisoft's release calendar after their extensive dry spell as a result of in-house company strife. The sexual harassment things, the people leaving, blah, 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 all those things. So, here's the list of upcoming projects. Skull and Bones. That's still a thing. Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. We saw it last year. The Division Heartland, the first of the free-to-play games. Immortals Phoenix Rising sequel. Assassin's Creed Rift. Assassin's Creed Infinity. Ghost Recon Frontline. X-Defiant. Prince of Persia The Sands of Time remake. Prince of Persia Unknown Title. The Crew 3, which is also known as Project Orlando internally, Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope, we saw it at last year's E3, Roller Champions, Beyond Good and Evil 2, Splinter Cell Remake, The Division Mobile, and other mobile games. Some of the notable titles from this list include the new Prince of Persia game, which according to a recent report from BGC this week, it's supposed to be a 2.5D game harkening back to the original Prince of Persia and was inspired by the Ori games by Moon Studio. Other notable things include a sequel to Immortals Phoenix Rising, a game many thought bombed in its December 2020 release date, a new sequel to The Crew, X-Defiant losing the Tom Clancy moniker, Ghost Recon Frontline still existing, and more importantly, the complete absence of their Star Wars game, which according to Tom Henderson makes that game a potential 2025 game. So
that was 17 games, unless I miscounted in the
yeah,
process.
You're counting, right?
That, good lord, the fact that your company has gotten to the point where you can have 17 games in the wings like that, some of which I mean, granted, they're all very different genres for the most part. I just look at Mario Rabbids next to the Crew 3 next to Prince of Persia. It's like, that is 3 wildly different kind of games. So,
which for Ubisoft says a lot, because remember, Ubisoft was the king of the homogeneity.
There is still remnants of that. I mean, as we saw, Ghost Recon Frontline, X-Defiant, whatever Avatar Frontiers of Pandora is. I am so tired of Avatar stuff at this point.
That's the thing. Why are you tired? There's barely been any Avatar since 2009.
I'm tired of people talking about it, okay? That's where I'm at. Because also, like, Disney did their whole expansion of Pandora, so we had to hear about that. We had to hear about every time they keep saying that they're going to make the next movie, and it's going... we swear, guys, we're still making it. There's going to be a trilogy.
Supposedly 2 or 3 are already filmed, and 2's coming out this year. I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, I'm tired of it in general. People talking about things related to Avatar going to be coming out. That's why. So Skull and Bones as a game that I've been looking forward to for like 3 years now.
Yes, it was revealed in 2018, and we're still not hearing. No, it's 2017.
Concept too.
2017.
That's the worst part.
Yeah.
For anybody listening that has not seen it yet, it is the pirates section on the ship of Assassin's Creed 3 and Black Flag, but entirely about that and multiplayer. So I think it's 5v5. You each have your own ship with their own crew, and it's all ship combat.
And apparently it's been rebooted. It's been like changed from that, so that's why like Skull and Bones.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, it was really cool of a concept. I don't know what it is now anymore since they rebooted it, because frick, we can't have anything nice in this world. Division Heartland, I free to play Division, whatever.
Yeah, that's I'll just interject there. From the 3 free to play games that they announced last year, that's the one that sounded the coolest, because it was taking an idea of one of the cooler DLCs from the Division 1 and making it its own game, which was the survival mode. So
I'll give them that, because I mean, Division Heartland sounds cool in a concept, but once again, it's like one of those things that they have so little to show us that all right, Ubisoft, show us things and then let me get excited about them. Don't tell me that something cool is
that I will give you that one, because from the 3 free to play games, that's the only one that was just talked about. We've never seen it. The other ones we did.
As for Assassin's Creed, oh wait, sorry, I jumped over that. Immortals Phoenix Rising sequel. I mean, I never played I never finished the first one.
I was gonna say you did play it.
I know, I did play it. I blanked out there for a second, but I don't know. It was a game, especially now that I'm looking back on it in hindsight, was very. It's like, this is the game that I would have loved as a 10-year-old, and I would have championed it.
By looking at it, you hate everything about it.
I don't even hate it. It's like, gosh, I know I would have loved this, and it's like, if only this had come out like 5 years ago or something.
Yeah, I adored what I played of Phoenix Rising. I actually streamed the beginning. I was like, it's kind of cool that someone made a Breath of the Wild as closest to a Breath of the Wild as they could, coming from Ubisoft.
I would say it still succeeded in being closer to Breath of the Wild than Genshin Impact, which everyone said was like, oh, it's Breath of the Wild.
It only had the look.
But
like, and to me, the reason why I didn't finish it was because it came in that period where I wanted PS5 games to play, and then my PS5 just arrived much later than I wanted, so
yeah,
I kind of just left it. But I kind of want to go back to it sometime, because I really did enjoy that one. Assassin's Creed Rift was the Assassin's Creed that broke while we were recording the show about like
That's
a smaller.
the one that I'm looking forward to on that one.
Yeah.
Because that's the one set in Baghdad,
Mm-hmm.
with the dude from Valhalla that was like dressed in Altair's outfit basically, but it was all of the supporting assassins that had the gray and blacks, and Altair had his white outfit because he was a weirdo. But anyway,
Yeah, the
that's
DLC
the one
from
that I really
the DLC from Valhalla that turned into a full game. So
right. So that's I'm definitely the most excited about that. Assassin's Creed Infinity.
That's the one that it's like the most big creatively bankrupt one, but it's the one that the idea is supposedly that it's an Animus centered game where through the Animus you can enter all these different eras within it. That's what Tom Henry said. I can't imagine how big that game is going to be.
It's going to be so terrible for that game, I swear. And I just actually recently watched a hour and 39-minute video from a history YouTuber that was obsessed with the Assassin's Creed games and talked about the historical accuracy and inaccuracies in very great detail and why. Like, it wasn't bashing it. It was just like why you choose historical accuracy versus not and what that means. So it was really cool revisiting from 1, 2, 3, and then comparing it to like Odyssey and Origins and stuff like that. That was like really cool to see. So I was like, man, I remember
that was always
how
the appeal.
I would get.
That was always the appeal.
But then how loosely they started playing that card where they're like, look, we're the historical people making the historical game, and it's like, are you sure about that, buddy? Especially nowadays where they're like not at all going for history and more about the aesthetic, which was like one of the big statements, especially now that we're in Valhalla territory.
And then remember the Dawn of Ragnarok came out for Valhalla in the middle of this nightmarish release calendar.
And Atlantis before that, and the stuff with the Egyptian gods before that, and so it's like,
which, to be fair, all the stuff was cool. Despite breaking the Assassin's Creed reality, was actually pretty cool. Doing all the basically all the mythological parts.
The main takeaway that I had was, don't call yourself a historical series anymore. Just make cool games.
Yeah.
that's where it was really breaking it down to.
That's where Immortals Phoenix Rising came, because that was done by the Odyssey people. So
and that's where it was like, all right, get rid of the pretense of this is historical accuracy, where you compare something like Leonardo da Vinci's actual quotes from books and Machiavelli actually quoting things that we know from, and then jumping into now.
That Ezio trilogy was so awesome, man.
We'll just I know I kind of jumped on a soapbox, so sorry about that. But
Ghost Recon Frontline is the one that I also almost credit this one for YouTube removing dislikes, because that thing had like 30,000 dislikes when it was revealed. That's the Ghost Recon Battle Royale thing. That then they were like, we're going back to the drawing board, insisting that they were just canceling it. But it seems that they're going full frontal with that. And this was also in the Tom Henderson report. Apparently, that's going to be the one game Ubisoft is going all in with NFTs. So
I remember when they tried to put it into
Breakpoint,
and it was literally the same skin for guns. And they're like, yes, but the blockchain reads it as a separate code. And I was like, that's BS. Get that out of here.
Poor Breakpoint. I remember reading that developers were furious that they made Breakpoint that, because they had spent almost an entire year and change improving Breakpoint
fixing it. It was really fun.
And improving
I bought it for $10, and it was really cool.
Yes, and then they had to like throw the stench of NFTs into that. To be fair, though, I'm glad that NFT talk has died down after what did nightmare that was January.
Yeah, me too. Shoot.
X-Defiant is like, that was the guy, a former Call of Duty guy was doing this one in Ubisoft San Francisco. Yeah. At the very least, I'll give them that. Out of respect for the Tom Clancy name, they removed Tom Clancy from it.
Thank God.
It still looks incredibly stupid. The Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time remake. Do you know that game was supposed to come out on January 2 of last year?
Yeah, and it just keeps getting delayed and rebooted and redone. And...
yeah, apparently they're completely overhauling the visuals, because that game looked terrible. I
remember
in light of all the remakes.
Us like a The reveal trailer, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's what I was like. This looks like it should have come out like a decade ago.
Uh-huh.
And thank God they actually listened, because they're like, oh yeah, we're gonna go
Yeah,
back to the drawing board.
and Sands of Time is the beloved Prince of Persia of all of them, so
Right.
they have to get that one right before they go into any other ones.
Funny thing to let you know of, the only Prince of Persia I have ever played is the one that tied into the live action movie.
The Forgotten Sands, right?
Which was a fun
It's
game.
a good one. It's a good one. I have an Xbox One.
What was it like? Look back 2-3 weeks ago where I said I really missed those licensed games that were actually really good, because that was one of them. And shoot, there was something else that I liked as well besides the X-Men one.
That one, the Forgotten Sands one, it's the closest the series has ever gotten to capturing Sands of Time feel, because Ubisoft then that's a game, literally the sequel, Warrior Within, that is to, like, when you talk about your era, the Stranger of Paradise era that reminds you of, Warrior Within is literally that. The gobsmack, the gobsmack soundtrack, the blood and gore, the rock playing all the time,
they turned it into God of War.
No, literally, and the prince is like he was like this whimsical character in Sense of Time, and he is then fighting this slightly cladded girls that then like scar him in the face, and he screams, "You bitch!" in the game. It's like, oh man, it's like it. And then they try to pull that back with Two Thrones, but the tone was already in mature territory at this point. So yeah, Sense of Time is an interesting one, because Sense of Time is considered one of the greatest games of all time. How that trilogy then went off the rails is fascinating, despite it still being really good. This unknown title, though, I'm really curious. If it's like, they mentioned Ori here, if they make it in an art style that's similar to Ori, because the 2008 Nolan North Prince of Persia one had that whimsical art style to it. So if they go back to that and make it 2D, I'm all in.
I have one last thing to mention, Prince of Persia. I remember my parents didn't want me to play it. You want to know why?
Why? Because it was from Persia?
The Prince of Persia is one of the names of Satan.
What?
Yeah. He is listed as the Prince of Persia in one of like the many ways of listing all of his names, and that is one of them. So my dad knew that, and he said, "Why do you want to play a game called Prince of Persia? Is he playing as Satan?" And he wouldn't let me play it, and I didn't understand what he was talking about.
Oh wow!
I was like, "It's like Aladdin, Dad. Come on."
Yes.
Which I don't even think the people developing that actually knew that, or if they did, it was a very tangential reference.
When you play the games, they have nothing to do with that. So.
I know, that's the funniest thing, but it was just a little piece of trivia that, oh, would you look at that? That's why that is. So that's why I never got to play them. Anyway,
I'm interested that they are going forward with the Crew 3, because the original The Crew was like a cool idea of like, oh, you can drive all around the United States. That was the pitch.
Which was neat. And of course, driving to New Orleans, AO.
And then it didn't work. And then the Crew 2 was like a bare bones game. I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, it was like, you can fly planes, drive boats, and drive cars at the same time. And I was like, that's not really all that cool. And it didn't spark the right kind of stuff.
Yeah. The Mario Rabbids game is supposed to be this year. That was what was revealed last year. One of the few surprises from E3 that got spoiled by Nintendo putting the pre-order thing at the time of that anemic showcase at E3. It's an interesting one because everyone called out how pretty it looked. So that was when we were still in the, are we getting a Switch Pro that's going to be more powerful? This looks too beautiful for that. So that was an interesting one.
What did they say? There was something that was coming out. Hogwarts Legacy is going to be running native on Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
Like, how are you going to do that?
Especially,
guys?
we didn't. Yeah, the state of play happened in between that. That thing looked very impressive. Very, very impressive.
There's something about it. They're going to either downgrade the crap out of it, or they're giving us something that's going to let us handle that.
Roller Champions. I wonder if this has anything to do with Riders Republic. If it's something in that kind of extreme sports.
I remember what that was actually. That was where I used to think it was like Rocket League, but with people on rollerblades. They briefly showed us some gameplay of it like 3 years ago or something, and then it would like went into development hell. I think it's like the Destruction All-Stars kind of style, where it's like, oh, this is a hero thing, and then like we're gonna be playing a sport at the same time. But
to be fair, I always blambast Ubisoft for doing the same thing over and over. That sounds like an original idea. So
it does. So I just wish that it had actually legs and was coming out sooner than now. You
Yeah,
know?
but speaking of development hell, Beyond Good and Evil 2, originally revealed in 2008. We're in 2022, and that's still not out. And that game has gone through
I remember the
many
cinematic trailer
evolutions.
for that. I feel like it was unrecognizable from the original game.
Yeah.
Because I was like, this is like sci-fi stuff. What? I
Yeah,
thought it
and
was like
a monkey
game.
cursing or something like that. So.
Yeah, that was such a weird thing. Anyway,
and that was interesting because the director Michel Ancel was one of the names that popped up during the sexual harassment complaints, or like the people that got called out of the toxic people from Ubisoft, and he left the company. So
yeah, okay.
What's even that game? So, Splinter Cell remake, originally like revealed last year at the height of our hatred for Ubisoft. That by the time they're revealing that was the one thing I've been waiting for so long. It kind of just landed with a thought because I'm like, yay, it's finally the Splinter Cell. I've been wanting them to say we're doing another Splinter Cell. Of course, that had to happen while Ubisoft is like the worst company right now. And these mobile games.
It's one of those things that it's like we talked about it before. Y'all can listen in on the previous episodes back when that was revealed. But just like Alejandro said, it was the worst time for them to reveal it. And why is there a trend now of people just saying we are working on this game with nothing to show for it? Like, y'all gotta at least give us, like, the bare minimum to me is a cinematic trailer.
Yeah.
Because at least you can outsource that to another company to make for you while you work on the game. Ideally, you come out with a little bit of gameplay and some actual stuff to show us. But, like, to just say, hey, we're making Splinter Cell again, trust us by, that is just like the most cheap, terrible way to reveal that. Can you imagine at one of the conferences revealing a like gameplay or cinematic of Splinter Cell coming back?
It would have been the hypest thing.
Nuts.
Yeah, but
and saying that it was a single player game at like a conference, once again, nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that goes back to the whole Ubisoft suffering internal strife, losing a lot of people. That's if you notice, this is like, it's rare for us to go this long with barely any Ubisoft game. The most recent one was Far Cry 6, and before that, I don't even remember. It was like the trifecta of Watch Dogs, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and Immortals Phoenix Rising.
They really released two of their biggest games within like a week of each other.
Yeah, but it's because they have had troubles with development. That's why they're making that DLC for Valhalla its own game, because they had nothing. They need to put out something. So it makes sense why they would just reveal it like that. But it just goes to show, sometimes when you reveal like that, you know you're in trouble. So you just want to put some good vibes out. But they're also signs for, hey, come work with us. We're working on this. That's what they sometimes do.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Where they're like, hey, this is the company that's working on the Splinter Cell remake. Please come work for us. Yes, we love you.
I'll give them this. How often was I cursing at Ubisoft last year when we were doing the show?
So
like
often. Every episode, it felt like we had another. This is another segment we like to call F Ubisoft.
Exactly.
And it was just all of the things that they kept goofing up on with the NFTs and everything else going on with all
live service, everything. So,
gosh. I can't believe how many IPs they actually own when you really break it down. Honestly.
And that's what made it more frustrating that they homogenized so much, because they used to be the company where every single of these games would feel different. So they'll slowly get there. Of course, it seems like 2021 was the year of rebuilding, so I had to put out all the crap out. So it feels good not using Ubisoft often, though, because by the time they were the first one to be like, NFT, guys, that's why I was like, ooh, now this absolutely sucks. But at least I hope none of these suck. At least the majority won't. I hope.
I think like we might get 2, maybe 3 good games out of this. But hey, you know what? Like they're a big studio. They gotta throw out a bunch of really bad and middling things to actually get out of all
of these, I want the Avatar game to come out like the fastest, because
out of all of these, you want the Avatar game?
Yes, because after that is out, it means Star Wars is in development. It's from the same people. Massive's working on it.
Okay, so you're playing the long game out of
exactly.
That one.
Yeah.
You're like, I want Avatar. I was like, did you read the same list as?
Yeah.
You had me for a second there.
And the trailer they announced, where they announced that Avatar game last year, it looked pretty. So I'll give it that.
I
So
don't even remember what it looked like, honestly.
look it up.
I don't want to. I just
Yeah,
want to go
look at the
back and
trailer.
play Elden Ring.
We will, because
Oh,
this is the end of the show, Paul.
that's
So,
it is.
yeah. So where can people find you, Paul?
As always, y'all can find me at Dork of Art on Twitter. I've been posting all of my latest art pieces of the game that I've been working on called Sea of Choices, which comes out April 9th. There's going to be a trailer on April 1st, as my main developer guy has been claiming that. It turns out we're also possibly going to be working on some merchandise as well,
Ooh,
and
nice.
I might be able to work on that, which makes me very happy. But yeah, that's where I'm doing that. But whenever that shows up, I'll let y'all know where to find the merchandise. Alejandro, where can they find you?
They can find me on Twitter, @A_Segovia. They can find me on Instagram at AlejandroSegovia93, and my written content at thecriticalcorner.com. Paul, it's been a pleasure. I'll see you out there in gaming. And everyone, be nice. Everyone stay safe. Be healthy. Stay pretty. And if you like this show, give it a like, subscribe, share. Do whatever your heart desires. Tell us how we did. What do you like? What you didn't like? We'd love to hear more feedback. So,
Yes, we would.
and remember, press X.
To play. Good night, everyone.
See you guys later.